All right, let's get right into it. Today we're exploring the fascinating, incredibly multi-layered impact of leadership communication. We're going to unpack everything from those micro-vocal habits that are quietly dictating your credibility in a room, all the way up to the macro-level language choices that build or honestly break workplace inclusion. If you lead a team, or if you aspire to, your words are your absolute primary tool. So in this explainer, let's see just how sharp that tool really is.
It's kind of a tough question, isn't it? Take a second to really actively reflect on this. We often think of executive presence as just having good posture, or maybe wearing a nice suit. But your daily, habitual communication choices are constantly sending out these invisible signals. Are those signals building a solid foundation of trust, or are they inadvertently destroying psychological safety and completely alienating the very people you rely on? Well, let's find out. In today's explainer, here is our roadmap. 1. The sound of leadership. 2. Finding your style. 3. Written tones. 4. The jargon trap. And 5. Fostering safety.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the sound of leadership, vocal habits that make or break presence.
Okay, let's start with our very first layer, the actual physical sound of a leader's voice. Because before people even fully process the actual meaning of your words, they are reacting to how you sound. This is what sets the immediate foundation for your executive credibility. Consider this concept of up-speaking. It's an incredibly common habit where you raise the pitch of your voice at the very end of a sentence. Normally, we do this to ask a question, right? But when you do it on a definitive statement, your clients and your team subconsciously hear a total lack of confidence. Similarly, if you speak with too much breathiness, meaning a lot of excess air is escaping when you talk, you can instantly project anxiety. It makes you seem out of breath and, frankly, completely out of control of the situation.
In fact, communication experts point to these 5 specific speaking habits that absolutely undermine presence. Beyond upspeaking, you've got inappropriate volume for the room, nervous laughter or fillers like and like, mismatched energy, and just unintelligible enunciation. Think about mismatched energy for a second. Imagine a leader being super upbeat and smiling while announcing widespread budget cuts. It's jarring. The words and the physical delivery are totally at war, which completely shatters trust. Now, the really crucial point here is that these are often completely unconscious patterns. The best advice? Record yourself speaking during a meeting and listen back. Yes, I know, listening to your own recorded voice is a universally painful experience, but you literally have to hear your own blind spots in order to break them.
Moving right along to Section 2, finding your communication style. Know your strengths and blind spots.
So, stepping outward from the literal sound of your voice, let's examine the overarching communication styles that leaders adopt. Effective leadership isn't just a one-size-fits-all uniform you put on every morning. Leaders wield various styles, ranging from highly directive to deeply supportive. And the style you choose in any given moment directly dictates your team dynamics, setting the whole tone for collaboration, conflict resolution, and overall productivity. Let's contrast 2 distinct styles here. On the one hand, we have the director. Now, their strength is precise, clear instructions, but their massive blind spot is overlooking team input and suppressing creativity because they're just so fiercely focused on the finish line. Then, on the other hand, we have the harmonizer. They prioritize team cohesion and keeping everyone happy, but, and it's a big but, they might completely avoid the constructive conflict that is absolutely necessary for a team to actually grow. Over-relying on just one of these creates these dangerous organizational blind spots where either innovation stalls completely or resentments secretly start brewing.
So, what is the actual solution here? Well, it's all about nuance and adaptability. The most effective leader doesn't just pick a single style and stubbornly stick with it regardless of the weather. They balance multiple styles. They shift effortlessly between being highly authoritative when a sudden crisis hits and warmly approachable when the team is, say, brainstorming new ideas. Cultivating that kind of adaptability is what actually leads to lasting success.
All right, Section 3, mastering written communication tones, matching the message to the medium. Let's shift over to the digital realm and look at the difference between these 2 approaches. A meeting should be scheduled versus let's schedule a meeting. The active voice is direct, it's energetic, and it's perfect for your daily team memos where you want people to take immediate action and feel involved. The passive voice, on the other hand, is softer, more diplomatic, and honestly, often way better suited for formal reports or high-stakes legal documents where you need to keep the focus on the situation objectively, rather than pointing fingers at specific individuals.
I absolutely love this quote from George Bernard Shaw. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. It is such a powerful reminder. You might hit send on a carefully crafted email, lean back in your chair and think, yep, job is done.
But if you didn't tailor your tone and style to your audience, if your directive wasn't crystal clear to them, communication hasn't actually happened at all. It was just noise. Taking an audience-centric approach is absolutely crucial to ensure your intended message actually lands.
Which brings us to Section 4, the corporate jargon trap, when buzzwords backfire. There is this massive, persistent illusion in the business world that stringing together complex corporate buzzwords makes leaders sound smart. But the research proves the exact opposite. It dramatically damages productivity. By definition, jargon is a set of specialized words that are difficult for outsiders to understand, and actually scratch that, it's often deliberately used to obscure meaning. Think of it as a Babylonianish dialect, the secret language that makes perfect sense to the 3 people in the conference room who invented it, but sounds like total alien gibberish to the rest of the company. While it might make a small inside group feel unified, it inherently alienates everyone else, drastically increases cognitive load, and completely shuts down real engagement.
Oh man, we have all heard these, right? Let's grab the low-hanging fruit. Or, don't reinvent the wheel. These are consistently voted the absolute most annoying phrases in the workplace. And get this shocking fact, a full third of employees admit to using business jargon without even knowing what it actually means. Just think about it. When a manager looks a team in the eye and says, "I need you to give 110% on this deliverable," the employee is left totally confused. Mathematically, 110% is literally impossible, so what does that actually mean in reality? Do they work the entire weekend? Do they just double the budget? Productivity immediately suffers right there because the instruction meant absolutely nothing.
And the psychology behind why we do this is just fascinating. Researchers at Columbia Business School actually found that lower status individuals use jargon as a status symbol to mask their own insecurity. They dress up their words to sound important and to hide the fact that they might feel totally out of their depth. But studies show that leaders who rely on vague jargon are actually perceived as much less trustworthy than those who use clear, concrete language. Plain speech is a sign of true confidence.
And finally, Section 5, fostering safety through language, building inclusive workplaces.
Zooming out to a macro level, our words act like these invisible signals, marking exactly who belongs and who is excluded. The language we choose dictates psychological safety and equity within the entire organization. Consider these everyday defaults we use, saying "hey guys" to a mixed room, or using terms like chairman or mankind. Upgrading these to humanity, chairperson, or using gender-neutral titles isn't just about being polite. It's about actively challenging deeply ingrained unconscious biases. It signals to your team right from the very first interaction that this is an equitable environment where everyone's presence is genuinely valued.
Now, inclusion literally means digital accessibility too. Rather than just checking compliance boxes, think of this as actively helping a colleague do their absolute best work. It takes just a few seconds to run the built-in accessibility checkers on your documents before sending them out. When you're adding hyperlinks, avoid writing something lazy and vague like "click here." Ensure your link text actually makes sense entirely out of context. And it's highly helpful to front-load those links with the key descriptive words. These are super simple everyday tweaks, but they immediately remove massive barriers for employees who rely on screen readers. It's simply about providing equitable access to information.
And we definitely can't forget about physical safety. If you have a diverse global team, maybe working on a really noisy manufacturing floor or spread across different continents, relying on corporate jargon and overly complex language can be genuinely dangerous. By utilizing universal signage and clear visual symbols, we bypass language barriers entirely. We ensure that a simple misunderstanding about a safety protocol doesn't suddenly turn into a life-threatening hazard. Clear communication isn't just a nice-to-have HR initiative, it literally keeps people safe.
To pull all these threads together, consider this brilliant quote from Anais Nin. "We see the world not as it is, but as we are." Our communication is ultimately a mirror, reflecting our own internal biases and assumptions. To be an effective leader, you simply cannot put your communication on autopilot. You must adopt a continuous growth mindset, treating others as the absolute experts of their own experiences, and constantly, actively refining how you connect with them.
So that leaves us right here, knowing the incredible ripple effect that your vocal tone, your written style, your avoidance of empty jargon, and your inclusive vocabulary have on your team. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. How will your words build a safer, more inclusive environment starting today? It's entirely in your hands. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.